And today, Secretary of State Nancy Landry has announced the State Department's election integrity package for the upcoming regular legislative session. The package covers 10 bills by state lawmakers in efforts to improve elections in Louisiana. Of those measures is Senate Bill 226, authored by State Senator Heather Cloud of Turkey Creek. SB 226 suggests that adding new election rules, such as automatically challenging ballots with missing information and requiring a majority of the Board of Election Supervisors to review and decide on challenged ballots. It also suggests that if important information is missing from a ballot, like the voter signature, the vote will not count. In a statement, Nancy Landry writes, "Louisiana has some of the most well-run elections in the nation, but there is always room for improvement. I appreciate all of the legislators who have worked with us to bring this legislation for the upcoming regular session." And the regular legislative session is set to begin this Monday at 12 noon.